Tonight on the Donlon Report, an off-duty police officer shot and killed in Los Angeles. We'll talk with the union head who warned tourists last month, don't come, we can't protect you. Have things gotten worse? Also, disturbing new images of the conditions for migrants in Arizona. The mayor in Yuma has told us they're overwhelmed by the surge. Is this the result? First, though, growing evidence that natural immunity does in fact provide protection against COVID. So does that make at least part of the vaccination debate that has ripped us apart irrelevant? That and much more ahead. Glad to have you with us live from our NewsNation studios in Chicago. The Donlon Report starts right now. Hello, off we go. Natural immunity as a legitimate defense against the virus. It's gaining steam, and that is the pulse of America. We've been talking about this for months on this broadcast, and tonight, whether immunity from a previous infection is enough. And here are 3 examples showing that it is gaining traction and becoming more mainstream. First, the NCAA says athletes who have had COVID will now be considered fully vaccinated under its new guidelines. Second, the Wisconsin State Senate is considering a bill that would require employers to allow proof of a previous COVID infection as an alternative to vaccination and testing. So a big change there. Third, in Boston, as many as 100 police officers and first responders may be fired soon for refusing the vaccine. But they say they are naturally immune and have the medical data to prove it, and they want that natural immunity to keep them on the job. They've had COVID before, they have antibodies now, and that, they say, should be good enough. Coming up in a minute, the head of the Boston First Responders Union. Also, the doctor who is behind their cause. You may recognize him. He's been a frequent guest on our broadcast. Dr. Hooman Norchasm joins us as well in a minute. First, though, Senator Ron Johnson, Republican from Wisconsin. As we said, fellow party members in the state Senate there want a past COVID infection to count for a jab. Senator, it's good to see you. Thanks for the time. Let's start with this situation in Boston. Why have you decided to support their cause, a senator from Wisconsin and first responders in Boston?
I spoke with those officers and first responders. And the fact of the matter is as we learn more about COVID, about the vaccines, about their effectiveness, it's becoming obvious that these mandates just simply don't make any sense whatsoever. We're going to really harm our ability, for example, to staff hospitals, to staff first responders, but we're going to harm society by doing this, and there's no point to it. Now that we know that even if you're fully vaccinated, you can get infected, you can transmit the disease, well, that's the same thing as if you're unvaccinated as well. So what's the distinction? What's the difference? So I think it's about time we recognize natural immunity. I know one research has pointed to over 140 studies that show that natural immunity is as good, if not better, than vaccinated immunity. And again, unfortunately, I was a big supporter of Operation Warp Speed. I'm not anti-vax at all. But unfortunately, the vaccine is not proving to be as effective or in some cases as safe as we all hoped and prayed it would be.
So you're behind this Wisconsin proposal as well, Senator. I'm guessing the CDC in your opinion, are they a little behind this? Even the NCAA has now changed its guidelines as a result. Are they ahead of the CDC on this?
Well, I think the CDC and the FDA and the NIH has been behind the curve on COVID since day one. The first thing they've totally dropped the ball on is early treatment. We should have robustly researched and explored, and we should be recommending a cornucopia of different drugs that are cheap, generic, widely available, and safe to treat COVID. There are hundreds of doctors that are doing this effectively, but the CDC, NIH are just basically relying on expensive new drugs, the expensive vaccines. We've poured billions of dollars into these things, and we've completely ignored, cheap, widely available, safe, and from what I hear, very effective repurposed drugs as well. The CDC, the health agencies have not been transparent. They have not been honest with the American public. They've had a singular focus, vaccines, 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 and they really don't have a response. Now we're finding out that vaccines aren't all that they were hyped to be.
Well, they work. I mean, we know that. That's the one thing we do know we have in the toolbox. And I guess my question, we've been on this natural immunity thing for months, Senator. We've talked with the doctor you've consulted with. In fact, we're going to talk with you more here in a minute. I go back to an Uber driver months ago who told me about how he and his wife had COVID, and they were alternating antibody tests to track their immunity levels. And when it got to a certain level, low enough, then they'd get the vaccine. I guess my question is, why aren't we focusing more on antibody testing instead of just whether you're positive or negative?
Of course, that's something Dr. Norchasm has spoken relentlessly about over the months. It makes no sense. I mean, the CDC, I think it was the CDC, came out and recommended against antibody testing, even though there was some concern that if you had natural immunity, if you'd previously been infected, you might be at greater risk of getting the jab. So again, the CDC policy, healthcare agency policies haven't made sense from the start. It's about time that we actually do let the science dictate and direct our actions.
So even if this passes in Wisconsin, Senator, it sounds like the governor is going to veto it. Are you at least encouraged that this is more a part of the conversation and the discussion now?
I'm getting a sense the dam is breaking. I think the suppression of information, the censorship, is not going to last for long. When you have, for example, Joe Rogan doing interviews with Dr. McCulloch and Dr. Malone, and these things getting 40 to 50 million views, the good thing is censorship is no longer particularly effective. And so people are asking questions. They're legitimate questions. We should have been disseminating information. We should have been using the internet to have these courageous doctors that are actually treating COVID patients exchange information with each other rather than rely singularly on the pronouncements of people in the CDC and the NIH and FDA who, let's face it, they're not practicing medicine. They're in the ivory towers. I would much rather put my faith in the doctors that are in the trenches, exposing themselves, often getting COVID themselves, and listening to what they have to say, at least as a second or third opinion.
Senator, I guess you say you're not anti-vax, but why not come out then and say, look, this thing works, get it if you want or don't, but it works?
Well, part of the reason is the people I know that are getting infected right now and seriously ill with COVID have been fully vaxxed and they've been boosted. So the truth is the vaccines are not as effective as we all hoped and prayed they would be. They are losing effectiveness, which is why we're asking for a third booster, sometimes a fourth booster. I mean, let's be honest about this. Again, I was a big supporter of Operation Warp Speed. I hope these things would have been 100% effective and safe, but they're not. We have to be honest about that, assess the reality situation, and recalibrate what our recommendations are.
Well, they were never promised to be bulletproof, but as we know now, the effectiveness and the protection does wane, but it also wanes with natural immunity. Listen, Senator Johnson, we've had you on a couple times now and tried to get you to tell us whether you were going to run for re-election. Now we know you are. So the next time you're on, we'll talk about that and some of the other things facing you in the Senate. But thank you for the time tonight. We appreciate it.
Stay well.
All right, you too. More now from two who have been on the front lines, as the senator said, of this fight, especially in Boston. Shana Catone, a police sergeant, heads up Boston First Responders United, and Dr. Hooman Norchasm, immunologist and public health advocate. Both are seeking to save first responder jobs in that city. Doctor, you and I, again, as I said, have been talking about this natural immunity thing for months. What does it mean to you that at least this thing is getting some traction now?
Well, look, Joe, from day one, it's been clear that natural immunity is going to work. I mean, in fact, the reason why Operation Warp Speed knew that a vaccine had a chance of working was because natural immunity itself was protective. I think what's happening here is that because of, frankly, a design defect in this vaccine, in this mRNA vaccine, the virus is able to, the variant has been bypassing it. And now we're in a situation where the vaccine has lost its efficacy. And in the same breath, what's happening in many places, like in Boston, is that the city governments, state governments are discriminating against, some of the heroes in these cities who are naturally immune, who are on the front lines. I was privileged to get contacted by Officer Catone and her colleagues. And, we've really evaluated hundreds of these folks. They are all naturally immune. Almost all of them invariably are naturally immune. Some of them are hybrid immune. They all have antibodies from infection. And here we are, instead of exercising science in one of our most scientific cities, Boston, what we're exercising instead is draconianism, authoritarianism, and frankly, doing something really dishonorable. I mean, I'm absolutely shocked. I was reading Officer Catone's biography, and here's a person who was pulling people out of trouble in the Boston Marathon bombing, and now she's off the force.
Let me ask you about that, officer, if I could, because we noticed today that we have now doctors and nurses who are being ordered back to hospitals because of staffing shortages, even COVID positive with symptoms. Yet at the same time, there's talk of firing first responders in Boston for not being vaccinated. Can you reconcile that for us?
I wish I could reconcile that it doesn't make sense. We have a large first responder community that has worked through this pandemic. Many people got COVID working through the pandemic, and as a result, they acquired natural antibodies, and they don't need to take the shot. And to tell these first responders and other city workers who worked through the pandemic that now you're going to be terminated if you don't take the vaccine's, it's not working as they advertised. Dr. Walensky 2 days ago stated such that the vaccine no longer prevents transmission. So it's okay to take new information and reevaluate, policy and adjust accordingly. That's the prudent thing to do. That's what good leadership is. That's what we're asking our leaders here to do, because people shouldn't be losing their livelihood and their jobs for something that, number one, is not working, and number two, when our antibody test, which we did go out on our own, get the antibody tests, and we did.
How do you
seek
think
out
this
Dr.
ends?
Norchasm.
Is there a chance that you do keep your jobs?
I don't know how this is going to end. Today there was a court hearing with for an injunction. It did not go in our favor. So we're appealing to Mayor Wu to reevaluate her policy and to look at the science. It's follow the science. That's what we're doing. We did the antibody tests. We had Dr. Norchasm, who is a very well-respected immunologist, and his opinion is that our antibody levels meet the standard for what it would be if you took the vaccine. With that being said, we're asking to be able to keep our jobs and keep serving. We love serving our community.
All right. Doctor, we just literally have 10 seconds for you, but I did want to get you on this. Why do you think this has been such an uphill battle?
Joe, look, I just wanted to reiterate, I think these officers, the ones who have antibodies and have had COVID before, they're equally, if not better, immune from reinfection than anyone who's vaccinated. The fact that their jobs are in jeopardy is an absolutely terrible sign of Boston and of what's going on in Boston. And frankly, I think Mayor Wu should really reconsider this. She's not following the science. I don't think the Harvard medical establishment from which Dr. Walensky came is following the science. I think we're really falling away from medical ethics and science. And really, for all of the chest beating about following the science, I got to tell you, these police officers and first responders are heroes. They should not be touched. They should be given medals instead of being fired.
We will see what happens with it. It's great to have you both. And we should also point out the CDC is standing by its research that vaccines, even after prior infections, help prevent reinfections. So the debate continues, but it's great to have both of your voices with us tonight. Dr. N and Shana Catone, appreciate it. Stay in touch.
Thank you very much.
All right, now from possibly losing officers due to vaccine mandates to losing one yesterday in Los Angeles due to violence. Fernando Arroyos was off duty and house hunting with his girlfriend when armed assailants on Monday pulled up in a black pickup truck. The 27-year-old was killed in an exchange of gunfire. He told his girlfriend to run, saving her life. LAPD detective and head of the police union, Jamie McBride, joins us now. Jamie, it's good to see you again. Thanks for the time. First of all, our condolences for your fallen officer.
Thank you. And I'd also like to say that our thoughts and prayers go out to the family of Officer Arroyos, and this hits directly in the heart of the LAPD.
Yeah, the last time you were with us, you told us, don't come here, tourists, because we can't protect you. Have things gotten any better at all?
Absolutely not. I think it's getting worse. I just took somebody on a walk through Skid Row and throughout the city. And as we're walking through Skid Row, this is just a couple days ago, there's open drug sales on the sidewalk for display. That's how blatant it is. But it doesn't end there. We lost an officer just the other day who was house hunting. But it's so random. Remember, we had Jacqueline Avant from Beverly Hills in her home getting killed in an affluent neighborhood. You have people that are followed home 50 miles to be robbed at their house. And now you have our own officer who's house hunting killed and shot down in the prime of his life. It has not gotten better. And I think that our city leaders have failed. Our policy here in Los Angeles is just let people go. Our district attorney has failed everybody. So I think the voters need to step up and this year and really take note and vote for safety.
Well, they are trying, as I understand, to refund the police in LA after cutting the budget. Let me get you on this, Detective. We talked today in our meetings about the challenges that you're facing and police departments nationwide with resignations and retirements. And now, as we understand, there are some 800 first responders, firefighters, and police officers in LA who are out sick with COVID. How do you address this? I mean, how do you do the job there when you're down so many officers?
Well, let's not forget, too, I mean, this whole defund the police movement, we're already down 700 on top of that number. We just had a recent academy graduate a couple weeks ago, and after the first night on patrol, the female officer calls me, and she says she's going to resign because it's too dangerous. That's after one night. And remember, she had 6 months of training. This recent class that's starting on Monday, we can only muster up 30 people to join the Los Angeles Police Department. People just don't want this job. There's no support for law enforcement, and it's just too dangerous in Los Angeles to be an officer.
Yeah, we've talked about that, the challenge of recruiting for sure. LAPD Detective Jamie McBride, it's always good to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
We have new images tonight of the conditions for migrants near Arizona's southern border. Is this the result of a recent surge the local mayor there said is overwhelming? In Texas, Governor Abbott responds to criticism of his handling of the border. There are reports of National Guard troops living in horrible conditions, delays in payments, even suicides. And the governor called that criticism political. Is it? We'll ask a man who's running against it. Coming up, one of those critics, there he is, retired Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. He joins us next. Some disturbing images have emerged from an overcrowded migrant facility at the southern border in Yuma, Arizona. The mayor of that city joined us recently to talk about what was happening there and said they were overwhelmed. NewsNation's Marky Martin joins us now for more on this. What exactly are we seeing in these pictures, Marky?
Hey, Joe, yeah, these photos were leaked from that migrant holding facility right there in Yuma, and these images are just beyond disturbing. And as you start to scroll through them, I think viewers will pick up on a common denominator, a repeating theme here, and that's just sheer overcrowding. You take a look at these photos, and those migrants look like packed sardines, under their foiled blankets, just trying to get sleep. We also know a lot of them are being held outside, and we do think of Arizona as being a hot place. And it is, but in the winter, those desert temperatures still plummet to near freezing at night. The other thing you'll see, Joe, the migrants, really, it runs the gamut, right? It's adults, families, children, young babies, and all of this overcrowding happening at the same time that we're seeing all of these, COVID cases spike across the country. And in fact, some of those local Border Patrol officials there coming forward and saying, hey, all of those pandemic protocol safeguards that you and I get to take part in, the hand washing, masking, distancing. Yeah, all of that goes out the window here because there are just so many people. Joe, just last week, 1,500 migrants filled this facility.
That explains part of it, I guess, Marky, but why is it taking so long to process them all?
Yeah, and we've reported that right here on your show with you. Remember, this is that sector, Yuma, Arizona, that's just overwhelmed because of the immigration surge that they've seen within the last year, but particularly within the last few months. And Joe, I know you've talked to that mayor there, Doug Nichols. This is the same city that had to declare a local state of emergency in December because the number of people that kept coming through. And in fact, a lot of those migrants are coming through a gap in that border wall right there in Yuma. And Joe, I wanted to read you this, a couple of staggering statistics. Mayor Nichols actually coming out and saying that the number of migrant crossings has gone up 2,647% from this same time last year. And also since October alone, Yuma Sector Border Patrol has seen more than 44,000 crossings. Now, to your latter question about the processing, usually it should only take really a couple days to progress a migrant, but because Yuma is not a buzzing metropolis, it's still a smaller community, they just don't have the personnel, the resources to process this amount of people. Joe.
Marky Martin, thank you for the update. Appreciate it. We're going to shift gears now to the border crisis in Texas, where lawmakers are sounding the alarm on alleged mistreatment of the National Guard troops sent to the border to help curb the crisis. But now, Governor Greg Abbott is snapping back at those allegations, claiming his critics are just playing politics. For more on this now, I want to bring in retired Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. He has been a vocal critic of the treatment of these troops and is also running for governor in the state of Texas. Colonel, it's good to see you, and thanks for the time. So I'll just have you address the governor's complaint there. Is this political?
Well, you know, I served 22 years in the United States Army. I've been to 13 different countries. I've been to 3 different combat zones. And I don't think if you're elevating an issue about how you're taking care of your troops, as a former commander of troops myself, that's not about politics. That's about doing what is right by the men and women who are wearing the uniform here in Texas. We've had 5 suicides that occurred in just 2 months. We had 1 suicide that was thwarted. And I just got word before I got on the air with you that there was another soldier, a female soldier, that was having suicide ideation. She was saying that she wanted to end her life. We've got pay problems. We've got soldiers down there that are relieving themselves along the side of the road because we don't have enough porta potties. We don't have enough ammunition. The basic load for a soldier deployed on a mission is 210 rounds. Some of them barely have 80 to 90 rounds. They're exchanging body armor, so there's not enough body armor down there. And every single day, pretty much so, you have the cartels, who are really a terrorist organization, firing across the Rio Grande River into the state of Texas. That's an act of war. So pointing out these failures in Operation Lone Star is not about politics. It's about the governor, who should not be talking about what we are saying. He should be rectifying the situation and gaining the trust and confidence of the men and women he sent down to the border.
Have these issues improved since you brought them to light, Colonel? The conditions, the pay issues, and how did you hear about them?
No, they have not. And the reason that I heard about them is because obviously soldiers trust someone that has worn the uniform just the same as they're wearing, has been deployed into combat, and knows what it means to protect soldiers. They are not getting the type of support from their own chain of command. And so we are getting many text messages, emails. I get phone calls. I'm even talking to spouses of individuals that have been deployed down on Operation Lone Star. And when you think about the fact that some of them got as little as 72 hours of notice to say that they had to deploy and be away from 1 whole year, that's not enough time for you to be able to settle all your business affairs.
Do you agree with the deployment and the mission?
The mission right now has no real clear mission. It has no clear task and purpose. And that's one of the things that is affecting these troops down there. I've been down on the border in the middle of the night. I'd invite Governor Abbott to do the exact same thing. And I've seen National Guard troops actually helping, illegal immigrants out of these rafts and aiding the human smugglers to bring people in. And one of the problems we have, the non-governmental organizations down there, they're the ones that are collecting and processing these illegal immigrants, and they're putting them on buses, they're putting them on planes. During the Christmas holiday season, we had 5 to 6 flights that took out of Texas, and those flights landed in the middle of the night at Wilkes-Barre Scranton, Pennsylvania Airport.
Hey, let's get you quickly, before we let you go here, Colonel, on your campaign here. You were the chairman of the state Republican Party. You know what you're up against. The Border Patrol Council, former President Trump, have endorsed Abbott. This is going to be a heavy lift from you. At least that's the appearance from the outside looking in.
Well, it's not actually a heavy lift. As a matter of fact, poll numbers came out today. I have 38.32%. The governor has about 32%. So we're in the lead in this race out of the 7 candidates. And I'm not running for the favor of President Donald Trump or the National Border Patrol Council. I'm running to improve the quality of life for the people here in Texas. Texas is the #1 state in the United States of America for human and sex trafficking. And Houston and Dallas are the top 2 cities in the country for sex trafficking. And this month is National Slavery and Human Trafficking Month. Texas should not be #1 in those categories.
We'll continue to follow the campaign, always keeping an eye on Texas. He's a candidate for governor, Alan West. Colonel, good to see you. Thanks for the time.
My pleasure, Joe. Take care.
You too. President Biden's agenda has hit a dead end. His and Vice President Harris's poll numbers are underwater. And now there's a call for Hillary Clinton to run in 2024. Who else do the Democrats have? That's ahead. Plus, Dr. Fauci caught on a hot mic saying something not very nice about one of the senators asking him questions, and it wasn't Rand Paul. We'll play it for you and ask, is it time for Dr. Fauci to move on? Also, more details surrounding the case of a missing California mother have been released now after her husband was arrested. Find out what investigators believe may have led to her killing. That's tonight on NewsNation Prime, 9 Eastern, 8 Central. We're back after this. Welcome back. Is President Biden's agenda hitting a dead end? The president has spent this week championing voting rights protection after criticism that he hasn't done enough for the cause. But any kind of reform seems unlikely to pass this year. For one reason, Americans don't think it's a priority, according to polling. according to Politico, asked which voting reform ideas should be top priority for lawmakers: reforming the Electoral College, expanding voting access, or oversight of states' voting practices. And most voters, 32%, said none should be a top priority for Congress. Joining me now is editor-in-chief of The Hill, Bob Cusack. Bob, my producers make fun of me because I love to talk about this stuff, even though it's 2 years away. But I'm curious, the latest Quinnipiac poll has the approval rating for President Biden at 33%. He'll be 82 in 24. For what it's worth, I don't think he or Trump run in 24, but this is the stuff I love talking about. What happens? Because you have the vice president who seemed to be the heir apparent. Well, her approval rating's around 32%. What do Democrats do?
Well, Joe, I mean, Democrats don't have a big bench, and Joe Biden certainly has, even when he was running, there was speculation he would say, I'm just going to run for one term. You mentioned, Joe Biden is going to be 80 later this year. So if Joe Biden doesn't run, I don't see a deep bench here. I see Kamala Harris possibly running, but her poll numbers at the moment are not very good. She's underwater. Pete Buttigieg could run, the Secretary of Transportation.
Right.
He ran the last time. And then you've got to look at familiar faces. I mean, Bernie Sanders hasn't ruled it out. And other people are talking about Hillary Clinton and Michelle Obama. And, Democrats are nervous because they don't have the deepest of bench, the youngest of benches. And a lot of Democrats fear that Trump is going to run. And his poll numbers actually slightly have gotten better. Partially, I think, because he's been off social media, been banned by Twitter. I think that's helped him a little bit. So I think it's a wide open field if Biden doesn't run, but I don't see a Barack Obama. And Michelle Obama has long indicated, Joe, she doesn't want to run for the White House.
I was going to ask you, you sent us a list and we just showed some of them here today. You mentioned Michelle Obama, but what about Hillary Clinton? Doug Schoen, the pollster in the Wall Street Journal, said that Hillary is likely their best option. He's done polling for the Clintons before. Do you agree with that?
Well, certainly she has the best name ID. I think some Democrats would be nervous. I mean, because nowadays it's not like it used to be where you could get the nominee more than once. Usually the party says, okay, if you got the nomination and you lost, then we got to move on to somebody else.
Right.
And certainly Hillary Clinton wants to be president. She's run a couple times, and I wouldn't rule out the possibility she's going to look at her polling and think, you never know. But that's only if Joe Biden doesn't run.
Either way, you don't think there's a name that might emerge, maybe even after the midterms, or some name that we haven't thought of? The names are all out there that are probably going to run in 24, right?
Yeah, probably. I mean, nobody knew who Bill Clinton was really when he ran for president, and Buttigieg was not well known, and he did well. Of course, he did not win, had trouble getting the African American vote.
Right.
One person I'd watch is Senator Sherrod Brown from Ohio. He thought about it last time. He's run in a state that's tilted red, and he's a pretty liberal Democrat, and I think he's got some appeal. But yeah, I think most of the names, Joe, are already out there. There's no magic candidate that hasn't appeared yet.
All right, in the time we have left, as long as we're on the subject, what do you see on the Republican ticket?
Well, Joe, I would bet a fair amount of money that Trump runs again.
Really?
I've been wrong before, but I've interviewed him 4 times, and I think he is just itching to get back in the spotlight. Some people say he doesn't want to lose twice. But I don't think he can shun that spotlight, and I think he's just waiting until after the midterms are over for legal reasons, to wait until then and then announce, and then it's showtime. But we shall see. He's also he's 75 years old,
right? And
you got to watch the health concerns.
Does he clear the field if he does?
I think he mostly clears the field. I think it depends on polling. I think someone like Ron DeSantis in Florida, the governor, has got to look at polling and say, well, can I take Trump on? I don't think anybody. If Trump doesn't run, a Trump ally is probably going to get it. You can't be anti-Trump and get the nomination. Not now.
Editor-in-Chief of The Hill, our partners, Bob Cusack. It's good to see you, Bob. Thanks for the time.
Thanks, Jeff.
Dr. Anthony Fauci has been the face of the COVID-19 pandemic since the early 2020 pandemic began, and his relationship with lawmakers, well, especially members of the GOP, has become increasingly strained. Several tense moments came out of yesterday's hearing on Capitol Hill, with Dr. Fauci trading barbs with a number of senators, including tense exchanges with Senator Rand Paul. We've seen these before. And also this one with Senator Roger Marshall. You have to listen carefully.
My financial disclosures are public knowledge and have been so. You are getting amazingly wrong information.
So
What are
I
you
cannot
talking
find them. Our office cannot find them. Where would they be if they're public knowledge?
Senator,
Where?
It is totally accessible to you if you want it.
For the public. Is it accessible to the public?
To the public.
Great. We look
Senator,
forward to
You are
reviewing.
totally incorrect. What a moron.
All right, want to bring in now political and social impact strategist Crystal Knight and former Texas state legislator, founder of the Patriot Academy. That's Rick Green. It's good to have you both again. That was just kind of a funny moment, maybe disrespectful to some. Crystal, let's start with you because I've always heard that when the team doesn't listen to the coach anymore, it's time to change the coach. Are we at that point with Dr. Fauci?
No, we're absolutely not. Republicans need to stop playing with Dr. Fauci. This is a man who has over 35 years of, medical experience working with infectious diseases. And to have a Senate hearing where he's talking about his finances, where Senator Rand Paul is talking about, or he's having to show Senator Rand Paul messages where he's, getting threats on his life and he's fundraising off of the attacks of him. They are literally playing with him while he's trying to direct this country through this pandemic, this epidemic, and we're reduced to finances and fundraising emails about personal attacks against him. And so I think he's right to push back. He was caught on a hot mic, and maybe that's not the most politically correct thing to be heard stating, but really this comes down to, Senate Republicans need to focus on the main thing and stop with all of this circus politics that they're doing.
Rick, the Republicans haven't made it easy for him, and he's been, I guess, successfully made the face of this pandemic, right or wrong. Have they been too hard on him?
Hey, Joe, good to be back. I think the one thing Crystal and I might agree on is that political science should not replace actual science. And that's what Dr. Fauci has allowed to happen here because he's refused to allow input and debate and robust discussion and alternative views. If you disagree with Anthony Fauci, he dismisses you, demeans you, and tries to destroy you. We now know from his emails, he tried to do that not just to people like Senator Paul and others, but to actual really credentialed scientists from Harvard and Stanford and Oxford, anybody that disagreed, he wanted them destroyed. And that created this environment of no debate, which created the worst, this is not an exaggeration, this is absolutely accurate, worst non-military public policy unmitigated disaster in the history of mankind. This man has caused more damage than anyone in the history of our nation because he lied about the facts, he lied about the science, and he manipulated the American people with fear. So I disagree with Crystal that we shouldn't play with Dr. Fauci. We should question Dr. Fauci, and nothing should be off the table here. The guy has ruined so many lives. It's amazing.
Crystal.
Here's the thing, question the science, which is what you just stated, Rick. I think that we have to get back to that. But that Senate hearing that we both just saw was about his finances. What does that have to do with science? What does that have to do with ushering the American public into a greater level of handling this pandemic, making sure that, as many Americans that have already passed, unfortunately, don't pass. Instead, we're continuing to be reduced to threats about him, threats on his credibility, as opposed to threats about what we can do to get out of this pandemic.
Yeah, well, we tried questioning for a couple of years now, questioning the science, and that wasn't allowed.
So if it doesn't work, you just do personal attacks? So if that doesn't work, you just do personal attacks?
You're kicked off. So if you're silenced, then there's something underneath, and that's what they're getting at next. If you can't allow people to question your science, why? What's the reason that it's so myopic? That's why they're starting to say, do you have a financial reason for doing these things?
Let's listen to a little more of the exchange with Senator Rand Paul. Crystal, we'll get your comment after this.
You are making a catastrophic epidemic for your political gain. So the only
you have
thing
politically attacked your colleagues and in a politically reprehensible way attacked their reputations.
Okay,
you won't defend it. You won't argue it.
You'll
just simply turn around the attack.
Crystal, I mean, you do wonder. This got a little ugly yesterday, and we're used to seeing it with Senator Paul, but it felt like something was different yesterday. It felt like Fauci was maybe almost even at his breaking point.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, he stated that he's had personal threats on his life. He also referenced that there was a young man or man who was driving across the country with an AR-15 and 10 magazines in his car to kill him and the president. That is the most ludicrous and ridiculous thing ever, and it's being fueled by dangerous rhetoric, like what Rand Paul is putting up on his website in fundraising. He literally had the receipts, if you will, about what the Republicans are trying to do to attack not only his character and his credibility, but his person and his family. And that there's no room for that in public discourse. There's no room for that when we're trying to get past this pandemic.
We all agree on that, Chris. Rick, I'll give you the last 10 seconds. We got to go.
Yeah, I just say he's at the breaking point because he's lied so many times and the truth is coming out now. He's been wrong about masks, wrong about the vaccines. Just watch the way his terminology has changed as the evidence comes out and he's proven wrong over and over and over again. People need to stop listening to this man. He is not the best advisor for our country by far.
We're going to leave it there. Political and social impact strategist Crystal Knight and founder of the Patriot Academy, Rick Green. Great to have you both again. Thanks.
Thanks, Joe.
So here's a question. What was, and something else, at least maybe I thought was popular back in 1982? Is that a mullet or just some really bad hockey hair? I don't know. But all I know is I can't make fun of how much hair Leland has anymore after looking at that. But we bring up 1982 because that's the last time our country saw prices rise so much in 1 year, 7%. 7% out of the wallet of every single American. And while the average American is also getting paid more than this time last year, it doesn't match the rate at which prices are rising, and the rising costs are certainly hitting the group that needs cash the most, the poor, and it's only going to get worse, according to analysts. So for more on this, joined by a couple of our good friends, business and technology reporter Shivani Joshi and former Romney for President Policy Director Lanhee Chen. Lanhee also a candidate for California State Controller. So we're having some fun with this, Shivani, but in the end, it's really all serious because we know in '82 we also had a recession. We have empty shelves now because of COVID. What do you see ahead? Are you concerned about what we're looking at with inflation?
Well, those are some good-looking pictures and good memories, certainly, Joe. But, this is not 1982. We are getting statistics related to 1982. But what we have that is very different is something that even the Fed Chairman Powell has said, that this is something that is related to Omicron, what's been going on with COVID, supply chain issues, and the myriad of economic issues we've been talking about. It is not necessarily temporary, but this is a very different circumstance that we saw back in 1982. When we saw inflation peak at 14.8%. We believe that is going to peak in the coming months. This is not going to be a recall and deja vu of 1982.
Lanhee, we've said on the broadcast here that if we can fix COVID, that'll fix the economy. Do we have to fix the supply chain, other things that have to do with the economy, and will it ultimately, do you think, be a domino effect? And what touches it off? Where do we start?
Yeah, Joe, there are some fundamental challenges I think we face that indicate there could be some systemic elements here. Certainly, the supply chain continues to be an issue for certain critical parts of the economy. For example, if you look at the auto sector, new auto sales are impacted by supply chain shortages. We continue to have massive supply constraints there. The other issue that we need to be aware of is that this December CPI report that you're referring to, which showed us that 7% month over month inflationary number, that number is the one that's actually used to set contracts into 2022 in a number of different fields and areas. So that's going to impact down the road over the next couple months and into the rest of 2022, the status of the economy. And the last point I just raised is this. You had massive fiscal stimulus in 2021, trillions of dollars coming into the economy because of the COVID-related stimulus packages that Congress passed and the president signed into law. Those are surely going to have impact in 2022 and beyond. So while I'd like to think this is temporary, I do think we are going to see inflationary pressure for some time to come.
Shivani, it does feel, though, like we are just raring to go. I mean, consumer spending is up. Lanhee mentioned new cars. The sales, I think, of the average price of a new car now, $47,000, driven by strong sales of luxury cars. We've been saying for a long time now, it feels like the economy is just roaring and waiting to go. Will it happen and when?
Well, it is roaring to go. I mean, we've been seeing demand up. The issue is that we are not able to satiate our demand because we are doing things like renovating our home, buying new automobiles. We are not able to get our hands on goods and services, but we're also seeing data out there that we're starting now to tap into our savings, that our higher wages that we've been getting paid, that the stimulus checks, the unemployment benefits that we have been receiving are starting to tap out. And so now what we're also starting to see are statistics that consumers are getting stretched and starting to dip into debt, and that is a worrisome sign as well.
Lanhi, do you anticipate at least 3 increases in the mortgage rates from the Fed? At least 3. That's what we're hearing. Some think there might even be more.
Yeah, I mean, the Fed funds rate is going to experience a number of increases. Some think it's 2, 3, 4, somewhere in there. There's no question in my mind that we have to see some tightening next year. Labor markets might have to tighten as well. But the concern that we have as well, and this was alluded to earlier, is you have inflation outpacing wage gains. As long as that's going to happen, people are going to begin to feel the bite from this inflation in 2022, right in time for the midterm elections.
All right, Shivani Joshi and Lanhi Chen, good to see you both. Thanks for the time.
Thanks.
Thank you.
On Balance with Leland Bittert starts at the top of the hour, and he joins us now on set. What do you have?
Hey, good seeing you. I heard my name mentioned.
Yeah, we're still talking about hair.
You're jealous?
You're always in that conversation, man.
Well, 1982 was also the year I was born. I couldn't figure out where the reference was coming from.
Rub it in.
Hey, coming up, we have, I'll see if you have the same reaction everybody else does when I say this, is that the 2024 presidential election could be a rematch of 2016.
Do you think so?
That's the question. And the other question is, can't we do any better than those two? So we'll talk about that when we see you at the top of the hour.
Sounds good, Leland. Thanks very much. Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.